Welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show, where we believe that growth could come in many forms: professional, personal, company, sales, you name it. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, founder of Transcendent Sales Solutions and a guide to a world of growth possibilities. I've spent my career empowering companies and their people with strategies that accelerate growth. I'm here to bring you stories of these business leaders and their trusted advisors to gain insights into their journeys and learn how they fuel their own growth. Just maybe their journey can become part of your own growth story. Are you ready? Let's grow. Welcome to the next edition of the Growth Catalyst Show. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I have my next guest here. Stephanie Gustafson is the founder of Digital RevGen, which helps small business owners create clear and concise sales and marketing materials to grow their businesses. As a sales and marketing veteran, she has been selling across digital platforms to Fortune 500 companies globally for over 15 years. Stephanie has successfully worked with top companies that include Amazon, Google, Accenture, and McKinsey & Company. Stephanie, welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show.
Thanks so much for having me, Dan. Good to be here.
It's fun to have you today. I have so many questions, and I'm so glad to have you today. First I want to talk a little bit about your background. So I know you're from California.
Yes.
And you had a degree in marketing. So you went to California State University. That's in Long Beach, isn't it?
Well, there's several Cal State campuses, and like most of the states, there's the state public school systems. And so in California, you had the University of California system, UCLA, Berkeley, San Diego, Santa Barbara. And then there's the Cal State system. I went to Cal State Northridge. There is San Diego State University, Cal State Sacramento. Cal State Northridge is one of the largest, if not the largest, of the system. San Diego's right up there, and marketing business is their strongest program.
So what was the plan when you were in college as you were going through your marketing degree? Mine was the same thing, same path. And I knew I was going to end up going into sales.
Oh, you did? That's amazing.
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think at one point I had aspirations to be CEO of a public corporation. And then I started working for large public corporations and realized how bureaucratic they are. And that squashed that, because my husband tells me all the time I'm too honest. And for years I thought, I'm like, that's not a bad thing. And then in time I learned honesty needs to be, you need to be measured in what you say. And so being a CEO wasn't necessarily my fate. I wasn't nearly as political as I needed to be, probably.
Oh my God. I tell you, you say that and I laugh because I had that same dream. I wanted to fly around with a private jet and I wanted to have all that. But then you think about it all now and it's like, who wants all that? Living in a fishbowl. I know, right?
And on your emails 24/7 and all the scrutiny. No, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got into hospitality and started in the hospitality industry. So what was the path that led you there?
Well, actually, my first job that I had before I even graduated college was I was a meeting planner for the electric utility and power industry. I know, incredibly fascinating for a recent college grad, but it was a great company. It was a great background. And I did get to travel a lot and go to the conferences we planned. And funny story, what we would do was we would research topics, create our own programs, write the content, write the outlines, recruit our own speakers, market the programs, and then we made revenue by people paying to attend our conferences and from sponsorships. So we had a pool of speakers that we regularly tapped into. And in the early days, this was back in the mid 90s, one of our top group of speakers were from Enron, Jeffrey Skilling. So those group of gentlemen. So those were some of the types of speakers we were using at our conferences. It was a different time, but a great group. It was a very good job. And then from there, because I wasn't necessarily passionate about the electric utility and power industry, I transitioned into the hotel space, started out in catering and quickly moved into the sales side of things and became a director of sales and marketing. Worked for most of the large hotel companies across the globe, Marriott, Starwood back in the day. I actually started with Starwood very early on. When Barry Sternlicht had first started the company as a small REIT based in Arizona. and was with Starwood when he created the W Hotel brand. So I really got to see the evolution of what's now become a really well-known hotel brand, and all the things he did to differentiate it in the space and really kind of take that boutique hotel style and mass produce it. So that was a wonderful learning ground of the evolution and building of a brand.
And I love that they're, as a Marriott guy, that they finally merged with Marriott, Starwood. I just love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And then from there, I went to Hilton, worked for Hilton Corporate on a brand team. And then I was the director of performance metrics and competitive intelligence. So I was responsible for all of Hilton's data analytics, the data that was used to help brand managers determine where to develop properties, the data that was used by our CFO to report out to the street, and then all of the CI for the company. And then I came to Atlanta here with IHG, and I worked on their global sales strategy team.
So all the years, I think, probably 16, 17 years in the hotel industry, what are some things you learned along the way that sets you up to be an entrepreneur?
Um, the hotel industry is a very dynamic space. I've noticed I've been through several ups and downs. Um, 9/11, of course, had a huge impact on the hospitality industry. The economic downturn of 2008, and then, of course, the most recent, COVID, which destroyed the hospitality industry for a while. Of course, it's rebounded, but that's what I've learned is you need to be prepared for those downturns, be able to pivot quickly, really kind of think of different opportunities. You can't be doing things the way you used to, and that everything eventually comes back around. You just need to stay your course.
So if we fast forward now to 2020, again, your pivot is interesting. My pivot getting out of the corporate world was starting sales consulting. Yours was starting digital rev gen. Tell me, how that came about as far as like doing what you were doing to what you're doing now.
Yeah. So when I was with my latest role with IHG on our solution design team, IHG, we were working with our large global travel accounts. So like you mentioned in your introduction, Google, Accenture, McKinsey, these were companies where, their employees are traveling all the time. And so the travel managers at these companies are negotiating rates so their travelers can stay at set hotels. And what our role was to put together customized pricing agreements and create the story to convince these travel managers why they should be shifting from our competitors into our property. So it was a mix between data analysis, what was the revenue opportunity, how could we save you money, but also the sales story, right? What was the opportunity for you? What were your KPIs, your key performance indicators you were being measured on? How could this travel program help support you in your role? And so we had to be, with every company we sold to and presented to, one, we were doing it across digital platforms because I could be presenting to China in the morning, or actually Germany in the morning and China in the evening. And so we had to be able to craft a compelling story that could be done over Zoom or WebEx, because we didn't have the opportunity to meet with clients face to face and have that personal connection that so many salespeople use to connect with their clients. And so we became trained in the challenger sales framework. And that really took our clients through their sales story. And we really had it down so well that by the time we finished our presentation, we were about at a 90% verbal acceptance rate because it made so much sense, the way we had positioned the messaging. So when the pandemic hit, I started to think of all of the salespeople I'd worked with over the course of my career, and what made them so great was how they connected with their clients face to face. And now they were being put on virtual platforms, being forced to create these PowerPoint presentations that did the storytelling for them. And I knew how many of them would struggle. And I had spent so much time the past 6, 7, 8 years building out those kind of presentations that I took it as an opportunity to help small businesses create their sales story, right? Whether it's on their websites or their sales presentations, emails. Emails are critical. I'm doing a lot of talking right now in my own content about the importance of email. It's got the highest return on investment of any of the marketing out there. But you need to be able to effectively tell your story in a specific series of conversations.
Well, and it's funny. We'll jump to the email. I did get an email from you yesterday,
Yes.
and it said, "Do your emails get ignored?" And I actually opened it because I said, "Yes, they do." And I was surprised as I was reading it. It's 3,600% ROI on email. So if you talk about that, and I was like, "Wow." Like, okay, I'm doing some emailing. What am I doing wrong? I mean, is anybody reading it? And because I don't get a lot of replies on emails, and I know I'm not alone with that. So, where's the disconnect?
Well, the first thing is consistency, which I think a lot of us struggle because, I kind of equate it to going on a diet and trying to lose weight, right? You're eating, you can be very vigilant about what you're eating for 2, 3, 4 days. And then you get on the scale and say, oh, I haven't lost anything. Forget it. I'm done. And I think so much of our marketing efforts, whether it's email or social media, whatever, creating videos, podcasting, when you don't get a response from your audience, you don't have some sort of feedback that you're being heard or some sort of validation, it's a natural tendency to give up. So that's the first thing. Stay the course, be consistent. But if you're not hearing from your audience, then it's a question. Am I asking the right questions in terms of my call to action? What is my call to action? Is it clear? Is it being repeated multiple times throughout the email or the social media post or on your website, whatever it may be? If we don't tell our audiences what we want them to do, your call to action, they're not going to do anything. And it needs to be repeated multiple times, because if you just save it for the end of an email, you're assuming everybody's going to get to the bottom of that email. And that's a false assumption. Conversely, if you put it just at the top, there are some people who immediately just go to the bottom, which is why the PS is so important. So you need to do it multiple times. And it really comes down to playing with it, trying different things. I was just on the phone with a colleague earlier today, and we really talked about the need to test and measure. There is a reason why A/B testing is recommended so often, is you constantly need to be testing what works. And frankly, what works today may not work 3, 4 months down the road.
Because of the changing, because
Yeah.
things could change quickly. Yeah. Other than, and I know you focus on email and you also focus on website content.
Yes.
That's another thing I'd like to talk about, because when I go to a lot of websites, I see a lot of here's what we do versus how we help people.
Yeah.
And is that a disconnect, or is that one of many, or what are you seeing where people aren't getting the return on their website or getting the engagement that they're looking for?
Let's take a moment for a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the Growth Catalyst Show was brought to you by Transcendent Sales Solutions. Whether your company is facing uncertainty, declining sales, or resource limitations, Transcendent Sales has the solution. Their team has decades of experience helping businesses find alignment to meet their growth goals and transforming underperforming sales organizations into revenue-producing market leaders. They take a hands-on, results-oriented approach to solving sales challenges. Visit transcendentsales.com to learn more and subscribe to the bi-weekly Growth Catalyst newsletter for insightful growth strategies. Transcendent Sales Solutions, empowering businesses to reach new heights. And now back to the show.
Yeah, so I'm gonna draw a parallel back to my time in the hospitality industry. So back in the day, we used to market our hotels by how many rooms we had. We were recently renovated, blah, blah, blah. All we did was talk about ourselves and our properties. And one of the things I learned in the challenger selling was to put your customer at the center of the conversation. Your customer has a problem and they're looking for a solution. And so that when you build your sales messaging, you really need to focus on your customer and the problems they're experiencing. And when I started when I left IHG and started my own business, I was introduced now at this point, 4 years ago, goodness, I was introduced nearly 4 years ago by another marketer based here in Atlanta, actually. She's wonderful, to something called the Story Brand Framework by Donald Miller, building a story brand. And she told me when I was talking with her about Challenger sales, you need to get this book. It will resonate with you. And so I ordered it on Amazon, received it, and consumed it probably within 2-3 days max, and couldn't believe, one, how similar it was to the Challenger sales framework. But the Story Brand Framework is from the marketing side. And it really is all based on your ideal customer. They have a problem. They are coming to you because they are looking for a solution to their problem. One of the things Donald Miller always says, people don't buy products or services. They're buying solutions to their problems. And one of the biggest mistakes businesses make on their website is they feel the compelling need, because you've gone to their website, that they need to talk about themselves to convince you why you should use them. But what's the critical missing piece is your ideal customer wants to talk about themselves first. We are wired to, our favorite topic is ourselves. So give your ideal customer what they want and give them the opportunity to talk about them, talk about themselves, make sure you demonstrate you understand who they are. But more importantly, they feel a connection to a business who understands their problems, understands it so well that they almost feel, are they in my head? Have you ever had that where you feel like you see marketing or some sort of messaging and you're like, they know exactly how I feel.
They're talking to me.
Yeah. That is well done. And only after you've been very clear on who's my customer, what are the problems they're struggling with, then they're willing to listen to you. That's why the framework, whether it's Challenger sales or Story Brand, your sales story has to follow a particular series of steps. And when it comes to a website, you may have freedom on a lot of your pages, but your homepage, it is critical that it follows a particular cadence, and it always needs to be speaking to your ideal client and their biggest problems.
So with the Story Brand, I know you're a certified guide for Story Brand. I know there's a Story Brand script. I've worked with a little bit before. Can you use that script? Is there a script for email and for website, or is it more just for a website?
Well, the Story Brand script, and actually Donald Miller is so generous with his materials. So if you visit the website, and it might even be buildingastorybrand.com, there's a lot of materials you can download, and he does have a blueprint for how your homepage should be laid out. He has a blueprint for creating, how to create a lead magnet, and then that email sequence where you take a cold lead and warm it up. He has a 5-part email where email 1 should talk about this and email 2 should talk about that. And it's difficult for people to implement themselves, which is why guides like I exist, because it's, I can listen to a client of mine and within 30, 45 minutes really begin to craft their messaging for them. But when it comes to doing it for ourselves, it's really challenging because we know everything about our own business. We know every little detail, and we feel compelled to talk about it. And so we get too deep in the weeds and so granular. Customers don't care about that. They just want to know, do you understand my problem? And can you solve it? I don't need to know how you solve it, or at least not right now. I'm not ready to hear that. Just tell me you can, and let me read success stories, social proofing from past clients that validates what you're saying. That's a critical piece too. A lot of people miss.
Yeah. And I think with websites, sometimes I think people don't set the right expectations internally because they expect that we're going to invest this website, and once we turn it on, it's going to solve our problems. But it really doesn't. I mean, and I think one thing I wanted to ask you about is the lead magnets, because lead magnets, I find that sometimes they're hit or miss. There's so much information out there. It's a call to action. But, how do you probably place a lead magnet where it's going to get somebody's attention? I mean, or is that too broad of a question?
No. So again, that's something you really have to test and measure. So what a lead magnet is, for anybody who might not be familiar with the term, because they can be called all sorts of different things. But if you go to a product-based business's website, it is some sort of pop-up that comes up after you've been on the website, maybe 10, 15, 30 seconds, that is offering you a discount in exchange for your email address. For a service-based business, for example, you're in your space, it might be, if you're talking about how businesses can generate more leads, you may create a lead magnet that is titled Top 5 Tips to Generate More Leads for Your Business Quickly. That's the biggest problem your ideal customer is struggling with. So you create a lead magnet. It's like a 4 to 7 page document. Usually, you can design them on Canva, save it as a PDF. You put a pop-up on your website. And so when website visitors are on your page, they'll get asked, do you want to download this information in exchange for an email address? Because the ultimate goal is to get their email address. You can start warming them up, bringing them into your sales funnel. And then, of course, you're promoting it on podcasts. You've got a great platform right here. Blog posts, social media, LinkedIn, anytime you're engaging with your ideal customer, whether it's in person, online, or social. And really, Dan, it's all three, right? Or everything. I mean, nothing is the end all be all solution. You need to be talking about it all the time. And the great thing about a lead magnet is it positions you as a subject matter expert. You always want to deliver great, valuable information that after somebody has read it, they're like, gosh, that was really worth my time. That was really helpful. And so now they come back to you in the future or think of you when they have another question.
That's great information on lead mags. This clears up a couple of things for me. I want to spend a minute on AI. And, AI has taken us all by storm. I didn't even know what ChatGPT was on New Year's Day last year. And, now it's everywhere and all the different tools. How is it affecting the copywriting and content industry? I mean, I hear different things about it, that it'll eventually replace it. What's your thoughts on that?
So, and it's funny, I had multiple conversations with different people in different spaces yesterday about AI. Look, it's the evolution of anything where, yeah, sure, there'll be certain jobs that will probably go away, but they'll just change into something else. One of the examples I gave yesterday in talking with someone was satellite radio. Remember back in the day where every city had their own DJs and radio stations, and there was DJs all across the country. And now you have satellite radio where you just have a handful of DJs, broadcasting across the country. But it changed the industry, but it didn't make the industry go away. Same thing with AI. If you're just straight copywriting, yeah, you may be at risk. I have a lot more strategy behind the copy I'm creating. I consider myself a digital sales strategist. I am creating copy with the goal of driving sales for you. ChatGPT doesn't necessarily understand the story brand framework. They don't know the sequence of statements. They don't know what order to, ChatGPT doesn't know what order to say things well. I've done a lot of testing of it. It knows the story brand framework because it's, of course, online and it just goes and searches it, but it can't replicate it. The other thing with ChatGPT is, and I've talked with a lot of marketers about this, and the content it creates, I would never, ever, ever post it as it is. It is a great place to go for idea generating and to get you started, or if you're looking for different ways to say things. But I've never seen content that has come out that is actually usable in its form. It's just going to speed things up. And I was on the phone with a website developer yesterday. She works she does websites for lawyers, and they were doing a site for a client. It came to create the copy for the website pages. And the lawyers were like, no, we'll just use ChatGPT. And they said, please don't do it. And they said, no, it'll be fine. They went from 15,000 hits a month on their website from SEO searches down to 4,000 hits a month when they uploaded that AI copy. The search engines know, and they don't like it. So the short takeaway is don't do it. The longer story is it absolutely has benefits. You just need to know how to use it and use it in the right way. But I would never recommend anybody use it as it is.
That's good information. Talk about some of the impacts that your work has had with some of your clients with Digital RevGen over the past few years. Maybe a success story you can share.
Yeah. So early on, one of my first clients was an event planner here in Atlanta. And we were part of a women's networking group, and I was presenting on the Story Brand Framework. And she obviously was hit incredibly hard. Anybody in the event planning space in the early days of the pandemic was. And she was struggling to stay above water, and she took it as an opportunity, they used the slow time to rebuild her. She decided, I'm going to change my name, rebrand my business, start from fresh and see if it'll help. From the time we started working together, doing her website, redoing all the copy, connecting her with a branding specialist, and then doing bi-weekly blog posts for her, which is very important for SEO and to position yourself as an expert. Great content she was sending out to her subscribers every other week. She went from nearly going under to exceeding 1 million in revenue in a matter of 10 months.
Wow.
So, and that's one of the reasons why, back to how we kind of started it is when you work in a large corporation, if you do something really fantastic, there isn't that you don't necessarily have that see the results of your work and really feel proud because there's such a lengthy process. There's so many iterations.
And it's the scale of it.
Right. But working with small business owners, you see the impact of the results of your work quicker. And it's, she was about ready to lose her business. And it was so fantastic that myself and the person who did her branding and website, we adored her and we're so grateful to help her.
Yeah. And that's the thing I love about working with small business and getting out of the corporate world is just the impact you see. And you could see it so much quicker. And sometimes it's just these small tweaks that just make the biggest difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So last question, if anyone would like to learn more about Digital RevGen, what's the best way to connect with you and learn more?
Well, I would invite anybody to either connect with me on LinkedIn or to visit my website at digitalrevgen.com. They can schedule a complimentary consultation with me. I, of course, have a lead magnet on my website. Right now, it is the 5 tips to help get your emails opened, sending emails that your subscribers actually want to read. But I love doing complimentary consultations with people to really figure out where they need help and if I'm the right person. And I'm very direct and straightforward if I am not the right person to help you. I had somebody, that is a connection of mine reach out to me at the end of last year. She needed help with her LinkedIn profile and PR releases, not spaces of mine, but being a member of the Story Brand community. I have a great network of other Story Brand guides I can tap into, but website copy, lead magnets, emails, email campaigns, and really putting together your sales story. What are you saying to your clients to get them to connect with you? That's where I really like to help small business owners. My ideal client, they've been in business 3+ years. They're kind of stagnant in growth. They think it might be what they're saying to their clients. They haven't touched their website in a few years, and they're really trying to get to the next level. That's my ideal client.
Well, I will tell you, your website is fabulous. The lead magnet you put on opening emails, I downloaded it. It is quality. And you have given such great information today. It gave me an education, and I know it did for many others listening to this. Thank you so much for taking some time and appearing on the Growth Catalyst show today.
Thanks for having me, Dan. This was fun, and I appreciate your inviting me to join, and hopefully everybody finds a little bit of value from this.
I know they will for sure. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Growth Catalyst Show. Remember, you can take these stories of growth and make them part of your own journey. Learn from them, draw inspiration, and let them guide your path of growth. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I look forward to our next journey together. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep growing.